Hello, Code Nation students. This is the webinar for our Skills Day number 5. This Skills Day is focused on pathways and relationship building, some mentorship. What you can do right now is if you don't, get a notepad, whether that be on your computer, if you save your notes there, if you have a journal that you take notes and write in, there will be numerous opportunities for you to use that. So get that out right now. If you need to pause the video, that's fine, because you'll be using that throughout today's lesson. So our direct teach, what I want you to do is think back to all the professionals you've met through Code Nation. So we're focusing just on Code Nation right now and other professional experiences, but let's focus right now on Code Nation and maybe if you have had more other recent experiences similar. And I want you to write down the name of the person, what their current company is, what their current job or role is, a fond memory you have to them, and their path to tech. So go ahead, if you have one person, if you've already thought of them, then you can begin writing this down on your notepad, or if you're typing this up in notes on your computer. So go ahead, you can pause the video right now and take a few minutes to just jot down a few different people and kind of these bullet points about them. So go ahead and take about 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, you've come back, you've created a list of a few different folks, professionals, whether it be through Code Nation or other recent experiences. Just kind of reflect to yourself, how did it go? Why might it be useful to know all these things? So kind of just think about those two questions, how'd it go? So recalling these people, their pathways to tech, a memory, or like what their relationship was with you, and then why might it be useful to know all of these things? Let's just kind of reflect on that. And if you were in class, we would have a discussion, right? We'd hear students responding. And so I think when we're building out and thinking of our network and trying to build our network with professionals, knowing kind of just the basics, right? What their role is, what company they're currently working with, their pathway to tech. These things can help us because it can help us understand, well, what could be a potential pathway for me? Maybe there's things about that person that you would like to do similarly. Maybe there's things that are different. So go ahead and you can reflect on that if you need to pause the video for a little bit longer. Now, just to remind why we're here. Everyone can thrive here and what we mean by career ready. So the technical skills, we're taking a break from that. Today is a skills day, and so we're working on your professional skills. Technical is the coding. So we're taking a break from that. Today we're going back to the professional skills and focusing on that. We also see this connecting to work experience, connections to the industry, and a confidence and sense of belonging. These all are kind of intertangled, but we're focusing specifically on the professional skills today. So another question, if you have your notepad out or a journal, if you're taking notes, I want you to reflect on this question. Name 3 of the ways Code Nation has exposed you to individuals in the tech industry. So try to think of 3 ways that Code Nation has exposed you to individuals in the tech industry. If you want to pause the video as you're just kind of thinking about that, processing that, and then maybe writing down some responses. And if you've come back now, you might have talked about things about like your mentor volunteers that are teaching your course. You may have thought of a field trip that you went to and you learned about different people or roles within that company and what they do for a tech company. Also, I think another way Code Nation could introduce individuals into the tech industry would be our career panels, whether that be in class, on a field trip, or a specific company career panel. So yeah, those are just some ideas that may have come to mind. You might have thought of others. Feel free to add those to your list. Another reflection question. So again, after I read this, if you just want to kind of pause the video and reflect, kind of process, and then jot down. Why does Code Nation place so much emphasis on providing you with opportunities to develop these relationships? So why do we think Code Nation thinks this is important? Opportunities to develop these relationships. So go ahead, if you're just reflecting right now, processing in your mind, or if you're writing that down, a response to that question. So if you want to pause the video, that's great. And if you've come back, one example I think of where Code Nation, why we place so much emphasis on this, and you may have came to this answer yourself, but we know relationship building is at the heart of any work. So beyond coding, beyond the technical skills you learn, we know that you have to be able to build and maintain relationships, whether that be to be successful in school, whether that be able to be successful in a job or an internship or in a club or on a sports team. You have to be able to have that relational ability, relational skills to help build relationships and to not just build them, but develop them and maintain them over time. Another question to reflect on. So if you have your bullet, or not your bullet, your notepad, you can write in some bullet notes. What else can you do to make sure you are making the most out of these opportunities? So just kind of reflect. This is more of a personal one. No right or wrong here, but what do you think about you individually? What can you do to make sure you're making the most out of these opportunities? So if you kind of want to just reflect on that and pause the video, that's great. But we have one more question that I want us to reflect on too. So if you need to pause, go ahead and pause, and then I'm going to go to the next. Now thinking a little bit more recently, which volunteers have you connected with most during your time with Code Nation? So for those of you in fellowship right now, you had your volunteers from last year. You're now, a few months even further on in the school year. You've been with now your volunteers from your fellowship. Which have you connected with most? Sometimes, we connect with different people for various reasons. So just kind of reflect on that and think about all the different people with Code Nation you've met, but who have you made a stronger connection with? All right, so we are going to get into building relationships. These are some optional steps you'll need to take to build and maintain relationships with the people you meet during Code Nation. So the first thing is be open. Getting to know people is scary. Adults talk about this. Children, students, we know this. Getting to know people can be scary. You're putting yourself out there and it's vulnerable. We know getting to know adults is even scarier beyond just getting to know your new friends or schoolmates. Taking your time and working towards genuine relationships. When we think about the word genuine, we think about authentic, being real. And so being true to who you are. Assuming positive intent. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Assume that they had positive intentions. Identify the situational details and get the bigger picture. So I think always in life, especially within Code Nation, we always assume positive intent from our instructors, our students, our volunteers, our staff. Be curious. Take note of the things that interest you about these professionals and follow up on it. So in those things that jump out, whether it be their response in a career panel or just a conversation that comes up, take note of that and follow up. Ask questions, as always, in all things in life. Ask questions. Don't restrict yourself to just technical questions. Ask about career journeys, current companies, and where they think the industry is going. So again, thinking beyond coding, but thinking about career perspectives. And that's what this lesson is all about, careers. Saying thank you. This seems obvious sometimes and simple, but we can forget. We're human beings. So having verbal thank yous when you're in person or if you're Zooming with someone virtually or over the phone, handwritten notes or emails. So just a follow-up email. Just, hey, it doesn't have to be a novel, but just something quick. Hey, thanks for meeting, taking the time to go over that project with me. It really gave me some new insights. And detail the specifics, kind of like what I just did. We have this example. It says, hi, Erica. Thanks for inviting me to the board meeting yesterday. I had a great time learning about what goes on during meetings like these. For my first time, it was an amazing experience and definitely helpful. I feel super prepared for when I start having board meetings with my startup one day. Keep up the good work. Thanks. So again, just being specific and just making that kind of gesture of thanks and recognizing how they supported you or helped you. Don't lose touch. I think this is a tough one that we all deal with, especially when we think of being in a remote in a pandemic like we are right now. So adding people on LinkedIn. When you've connected with someone, met with them, make it a habit just to get on your LinkedIn app and add them. Engage with their updates. So if they're sharing stuff, liking it. I mean, of course, if you like it, but again, engage with their updates and just in general, your news feed of different people that you're connected with and networked with on LinkedIn. Ask questions and share updates of your own. So again, we have another example. Hey, Courtney, I hope all is well. I'm not sure if you remember me, but I was one of the students during the Code Nation beginner classes at P-Tech in the 2016-17 school year. Since that class, I went on to the advanced classes at Etsy the following year. I wanted to reach out to you to see how everything was going, and I miss you guys so much. Also, I wanted to inform you I'm now interning as a software developer for blockchain under IBM. ScriptEd, that was our name before Code Nation's classes, fueled my interest in coding. After participating in the classes and learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I decided to learn Python and Java. So again, I wanted to inform you of how things are going with me. How are things on your end? Are you still working with ScriptEd? I hope to hear from you soon. I miss you all. Yours truly. So again, just having a really personal touch, having that you kind of see the personality come out from that student just by reading it. Right now, since this is a webinar, you're not going to respond in the chat because there's no chat. What I'd like you to do is on that notebook that you've been writing and kind of jotting your reflections down, or if that's notes on your computer or a running Google Doc, I want you to answer this first question. What is a mentor? Just what is a mentor? So go ahead and take time to do that right now. And if you're like, okay, I got it. I know exactly what a mentor is. Why is having a mentor important? And how do you get a mentor? So again, take about 2 minutes and just kind of reflect on these questions. Alrighty, and if you've been able to answer these, you may have paused the video, now you're coming back. But we think about a mentor as someone that, that helps guide us, right? Like a teacher, yes, but someone with a closer relationship sometimes. Someone that can help give us advice when we need guidance. And we'll get into why it's important, and we'll talk about how do you get a mentor. So, benefits of having a mentor: connections to people outside of your network, references, resource sharing, alerting a mentee to job prospects. These are some very straightforward, like very specifics. Listen and acts as a sounding board for mentees' issues. I know for me that's huge, just having someone that can listen to what I'm working through, the current challenges and successes I'm having. Offers constructive criticism of the mentee's choices and behavior, provides emotional support and encouragement, particularly during trying times. So again, constructive feedback, support, encouragement, models good behavior, ethics, and values pertinent to the mentee's field. So thinking of people that are strong role models, that are, how we want to behave, how we want to, follow our pathway, and really operating with that good morality, that sense of ethics. Pushes the mentee beyond the comfortable, challenging the mentee to excel. So again, not settling, someone that doesn't let you settle, that wants to keep challenging you to do more, to do better. Encourages independent thinking and decision-making. And another one listed here, facilitates a mentee's success through networking, the provision of resources, and active promotion of the mentee's career. So really thinking about these in terms of a relationship with a mentor and what they can bring you, what it can help you with. So again, a little bit more thoughts about, identifying a mentor. Do your research, do your homework on yourself. First, know what is it you want? What is it that you're trying to gain? Do homework on the field. So if we're thinking about tech, we're thinking about coding, we're thinking about software engineers, do the research. Also do the research on your potential mentor, the person that you might be reaching out to. Well, you need to know a little bit more about them other than just your basic level. What's the relationship? How did it form? How did you get introduced? So kind of looking up and seeing, well, what is this person all about? Whether it be their social media, whether it be their LinkedIn, all sorts of different avenues to get that research, that homework on your potential mentor. Tip 2, make your request. Value his or her time. Be accommodating. Keep it short and specific. State what you want up front. I like to keep it short and specific. People don't want to read novels in their essays, even if it's from someone they know and they love and enjoy. We want to keep it short and sweet. So tip 2, here's a little example. This is an email sample a student wrote. Dear Joe, I cannot thank you and your colleagues enough for my experience here at Etsy. I've learned more in the past 8 weeks than I ever imagined. I've not only improved my technical and professional skills, but feel more certain than ever that this is the career path for me. Your willingness to spend your time working with me after class and during Friday office hours are why I feel so welcomed in the space. In 6 or 7 years, I aspire to be where you are in your career today. I appreciate your help to understand how you made it to where you are now, so I might begin a similar career path. Would you be open to speaking with me every other month to offer guidance as I pursue this path? I understand that you're extremely busy, so I'm happy to discuss how this works so it fits into your schedule. Also, if there's anything I can do to help return the favor, please let me know. Thanks so much, Daryl. So again, a really specific email, but not too long, kind of recalling some of the experiences, showing gratitude, and then kind of looking to the future, right? This is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. And here's an opportunity. This is how I want you to, speak to support me. Specifics of every other month, giving me guidance as I pursue this path. So again, very specific, short, stating what you want up front, valuing the time, recognizing, hey, I know you have a busy schedule. People want to hear that. If they know it's recognized, then they know this person's being very thoughtful with this ask. Tip 3, be gracious. I love this tip. Ask what you can do for the mentor, say thank you. And that example, at the end also, if there's anything I can do to help return the favor. So again, asking what you can do to support them. Saying thank you, just that gratitude, that recognition of appreciation of knowing what they contributed, how they supported you. So again, being gracious. We know this is important, and not just with a mentor, but in life. So I'm not going to go through this too much, but we'll do a couple examples. I think it's important to make a plan to keep in touch. We can say, oh yeah, I'll text that person, or I'll add that person on LinkedIn, or I'll email them. But I think it's important to organize it. So if you have a spreadsheet, if you have a calendar, setting reminders in your calendar to check in with the person you've met through Code Nation, connect with the past volunteers and share your fellowship experience. So for example, in this one, we have Isaac, and the kind of goal is to develop as a mentor. They have the method of contact, so I emailed them. The next time I'm going to do it is on the 25th of October, and we'll be confirming a phone call that we wanted to do monthly, and then I'll write it down in my planner and I'll add it to my calendar once I've made that contact. Another one might look different. Maybe you're reaching out to a volunteer and you just want to stay connected, and so maybe you forgot to add them on LinkedIn after class when the year ended, and so maybe you want to next week on Thursday email and just follow up with them. Or actually, I think for this example, I said LinkedIn, right? So maybe you wouldn't even need to email. Maybe next week you're going to look them up on LinkedIn. And then maybe you just want to stay connected, follow their feed, posts, reach out with an initial hello, how have you been? Said next week, but maybe let's be specific. So let's say Wednesday. I know, I'm going to check my schedule. I check it real quick. I know I'm good at 1 o'clock. So I'm going to spend time 1 o'clock to 1:30. I'm just going to make sure I follow up, see if I can find Vinny on LinkedIn, say a little short hello and how have you been? And I just want to note that I'm going to stay in touch, be in the loop. Maybe another mentor from last year that you hadn't talked to, but you noticed them on Slack. So you found them on there and you're like, okay, well, I want to stay connected, but I also would like to, stay in touch and see if they can maybe, support me in a mentor role. But either way, I want to stay connected. So maybe you have both those. And so again, maybe next week you're taking time to kind of write that email. And then maybe you're asking them in that email about a bi-monthly. Maybe you don't, you haven't talked to Luther in a while, but you just really would appreciate a bi-monthly meeting cadence. And yeah, let's say we calendared it. So let's be specific again, Thursday, 3 to 4. And then maybe I'm right here, but I thought, well, I could write them an email, but if they're on Slack, maybe I'll think about the email, but I'll first write them on Slack and go from there. So again, we're just kind of thinking through like, how can we be specific? How can we organize our plans to connect with past volunteers and make it actionable? So I have specific days and times that I'm going to take time to reach out to them. And again, you saw different goals. Maybe one you want to develop as a mentor, maybe another one you just want to stay connected and see what they're up to in their career. So these are all different options. So what I'd like us to do now is you've kind of seen this in action. We're not going to go to breakout rooms since this is a webinar, but for your independent practice for about 30 or 40 minutes, we would like you to now do what I just did, but in a much more specific and more lengthy way, since you have more volunteers than just a couple, right? You probably had 3 or 4 from your first year, and now you've been in fellowship, so another 3 or 4. Maybe there's a volunteer that really stood out at Hackathon that you worked with, whatever the example might be. But what we'd like you to do is in that notepad that you've been working on, maybe go to a fresh new page. You could even put Skills Day Independent Practice if you want. But I want you to make a list of all the people you'd like to keep in touch with. And then I'd like you to identify 1 or 2, kind of like I did in my list, that you would specifically want to be your mentor. People that you had a connection with, or you really were excited your time when you got to work with them and you feel like it would be a good person to be your mentor. Make sure you've gathered their contact information. So that might look like going to LinkedIn, finding their email from your inbox from earlier when you had worked with them, finding their cell phone, or finding them on Slack potentially. Set reminders in your calendar to check in with these people. So again, I just did a basic, wrote it in here, but you could actually go into Google Calendar and schedule it so you get a reminder on your phone. Connect with past volunteers and share your fellowship experience. So again, we want you to then, once you've made this list, you've identified the 2, let's actually go out and connect with those volunteers. And so virtually, finding them on LinkedIn, Maybe it's not jumping right to LinkedIn, maybe it's sending them an email at first. So let's actually try to, at the end of this 30 or 40 minutes, actually try to connect with those 1 or 2 mentors that you had identified. All right, so you're gonna have time to do this. If you wanna pause the video, that'd be great, because our next section will be different. So you're gonna have 30 to 40 minutes to make this list, identify the 1 or 2 mentors that you want to reach out to, and then actually connect with them online or via phone potentially, but most likely email or LinkedIn. Great, you can pause the video. For those coming back, if you need to take a little break, please do get some water, stretch, move around for a little bit, but when you're ready, you can jump back in. We always like to go through our spotlights. Sometimes it's staff, sometimes it's students, sometimes it's volunteers. This is a Marcy Labs graduate, Carmen Salas. The Mercy Labs School Software Engineering Fellowship is designed to be a direct pathway to employment as an entry-level software engineer. Prior to completing the Marcy Labs Fellowship, Carmen graduated from the High School of Fashion Industries in New York, where she took the Intro to Web Development course in 2016-17 school year. Following that, Carmen went to complete the fellowship course, which you're in right now. Hers was with Flatiron Health, and then she did an internship at Valtech in 2018. So again, we're giving these glimpses of your potential pathway into a career in tech. Speaking of tech, today, our next objective is you will articulate pathways to a career in technology. And so for this portion, you're gonna wanna go to your classroom online, so the agenda for your fellowship that keeps everything intact, and you're gonna wanna find your program manager, and the volunteers should have recorded their career panel. These are just sample ones, these isn't real. So right now, this would be a good time to go back to the original slides and find out where your program manager linked and recorded that career panel so you can go through and watch that. The career panel is probably going to take about 30 to 45 minutes. So just make sure you have that blocked out for the next chunk when you start that video. So yeah, you might pause this now as you go and find the actual career panel that took place with your specific fellowship. But after you've watched it, kind of just reflect on a couple of these questions that I'm going to go through. If you want to just think about it, that's fine. But you also could go back to that notepad that we jotted a lot of stuff earlier for relationship building, and you can just start a new one with career panel. So 1 second. These are the questions for the volunteers, a few of them, and they probably answered many more. And this would be your chance to ask them a burning question. Since you're not there, if you want to, you could definitely Slack them. So if you think of a question, you think of something you want to learn, please follow up and Slack them. It doesn't have to happen during the actual panel that took place. And so it looks like, yeah, so once you found that panel, at the end, you can kind of reflect on what did you learn about people on the panel? What were strategies, or what kind of led them to tech? What was their pathway? And so just thinking about the different questions they may have answered, but this might look different depending on your fellowship. So please do, like I said, find that recording of the panel and go ahead and watch that. Just to wrap up, if you're coming back here, you saw the career panel. Just to kind of remind ourselves of what we focused on in this lesson, in this webinar. The first thing was coders will be able to develop, maintain, and grow relationships beyond their Code Nation experience. So we really focused on the next point, which was mentors. How do we network and follow up with those people that have made an impact in our lives? And so coders will understand the importance of a mentor. And you actually reached out to a couple, which is exciting. Again, like I've said in previous webinars, go to the actual slides of your fellowship and check the PM announcements. There's specific information for that, for your fellowship, so you'll want to check that. Of course, that's why it's blank. And then if you want to just do a stand up with yourself and just kind of reflect on these questions. What did you learn today? What was maybe a little challenging beyond just being alone and independent, since you're doing the webinar, but what was challenging? And then I know, sad, you're doing the webinar solo, so you may not have shout outs, but I want to shout out you students for going through this webinar and keeping caught up with our curriculum and being invested in the fellowship. So thank you so much. And yeah, this is the webinar for our 5th Skills Day. Thank you all for listening.